Taskmaster.
Top 5 reinforcement abilities for ships. So, obviously, this is a very relevant topic at the moment. People are trying to figure out which are the best ship compositions to put out there. So, Maurice has put together some of what he believes to be the best ship compositions or the best reinforcement abilities for ships. So, who do we have at number 5 here, Maurice?
All right, number 5. Now, these are based on reinforcement abilities. These aren't necessarily the best ships in the game, but number 5 is going to be Cassian's U-Wing. This ship got a nice little overhaul. Let me pull up the exact wording of it here. But basically, when it's maxed out, you call him in, and he just dispels everything. Like, everything's gone on the opposing team. The bigs, the bobas they've called in as reinforcements that have retribution and taunt. You know, in any team, any mace team just comes in and sucks down all the taunts, all the crit avoidance buffs. So, and it's a game changer. Defensively, it's probably not going to work as well. I mean, as most ships wouldn't. But I mean, on offense, I mean, that can really just change the tide of a battle. Like if they've got the first order TIE pilot or a couple, you know, the squishier, like a TIE silencer, the squishier, hard hitting ships hidden behind a wall of tanks and defense up, you just come in, suck it all down, and knock them out of the sky. It's an awesome reinforcement ability. The ship itself leaves a little less, leaves a little bit. It's not one of my favorite ships overall, but in terms of reinforcement ability, it's one of the better ones, I think.
So yeah, Cassian's U-Wing's reinforcement ability is it's Rebel Recon. It's enter the battle, dispel all buffs on all enemies, inflict offense down and defense down on target enemy for 2 turns, which can't be evaded or resisted. And this is a very good ability because obviously the dispelling all the buffs on all enemies is fantastic, especially if you're fighting against a Thrawn and he just was able to pull off, let's say, a full buff on all the entire team and then debuff your entire squad. And then you're sticking offense down and defense down on that squad, rendering them basically ineffective on offense and taking more damage for 2 turns, and they can't evade it or resist it. So it's a great ability. Again, it's tough to say how viable this will be, 2 or 3 months from now, but at the offset on paper, this looks to be one of the better reinforcement abilities in the game, and definitely top 5 for sure at the moment.
Well, it's something when we look at all of these, something to keep in mind when it says inflict offense down and on target enemy. 9 times out of 10, when you bring in a reinforcement, the only opposing ship you're going to be able to target is the Taunter. It's going to be Biggs, Boba, Clone Sergeant, anybody Plo Koon is selected. Like they look a lot better than some of them are. Like, like spy ship, you come in and cause a taunt, but if you don't have it maxed out, it only does the one ship, and you can only target the guy that's already taunting, so it doesn't do you too much good. So it's something to keep in mind when you're looking at these. Don't get super excited when you can target somebody and inflict something on them. It's usually going to be Biggs or Boba, pretty much.
Right.
So just something to keep in mind.
At number 4, we have Clone Sergeant's ARC 170, and the ability is structural enhancement. Clone Sergeant's ARC 170 gains protection up 40% and taunts while he has protection. So what does this basically mean? That means that the entire time that he has protection until the protection is taken down, he's taunting, right?
That's right. And with these mace teams now, there's so many characters that boost protection up. I mean, just Rex just sits there and feeds him, protection up the whole match. He's gonna be a full-time taunter and get a turn. I mean, especially when you bring him in off the bench, he pops up, he taunts, he gets protection up, and he has the torpedo that does pretty good damage on a target locked enemy. So you get a little bit of defense, you get a lot of protection for your whole team, and then you get a little bit of a big burst damage there. So it's a very good ship to pull it off the bench, which is surprising because this ship used to be one of the more underwhelming ones in my opinion. I didn't find much use for this ship at all. And now there's paired with the right fleet, this is a deadly pain to deal with type of ship. It's nasty.
Yeah, because it's one of the I guess one of the tankier ships too, and
It
uh,
is, yeah.
I mean with the increased protection, plus the fact that it's going to be taunting until you get that protection all the way down, you're going to need some massive attacks to get that going down, and with the addition of any debuffs, like let's say offense down or anything like that, like let's say you couple that with the debuff we were talking about before, with the with Cassia and Ewing, you're talking about a chipping away here over the course of time, and that's definitely going to take a long time. So, I agree. It's definitely a good reinforcement ability, a good addition to that ship, because that ship was pretty much ineffective for the most part up until this ship's 2.0 update. So. It
They're all
seems
making fun of your clone sergeant in the chat.
don't make fun of my clone sergeant. My clone sergeant is amazing. Okay, my clone sergeant has been through tough times. All
Well,
right.
this is cool. This was a nice treat because a lot of the player base really invested heavily in the clones for like P4 of the tank raid when it first came out, and so now like you're not really using that team anymore very often. I guess some may still, but I mean now at least one of the characters, him and Fives both have viable ships, so it's cool. So you get a little bit of value out of that investment.
I'll tell you right now that clone sergeant, really the clones in general, have never been a focus of mine. I mean, when people were going clone crazy for the heroic AAT raid, I stayed away. When Cody came out was really when I stopped buying pay to play characters, like, well, at least on a massive scale. So I mean, I didn't make that investment in Chromium, and I waited for him, and then when I finally did get him, he was only really viable in that raid, and I was primarily, and have always been primarily, really an arena guy. So the clones, to me, at least in my opinion, have never been arena meta worthy, even when they were at their highest in viability, and now even more so. They definitely need like some sort of love or a rework, and it seems like the main ships that have gotten love in this update are ships that have characters tied to them that are not arena viable. So it seems like the majority of the characters that you're going to have to level up to make ships 2.0 work for you are like Geonosians and clones, and those are ships and those are the clones and Geonosians have no other use for you in the game. So basically like they should be doing, they're finding a reason for all these characters to have some sort of relevance, so that you're now going to have to gear up those Geonosians and those clones if you haven't. So this will be a reason for me to do that. But yeah, so overall, I think it's a great addition, and I think that again, Clone Sergeant is pretty much a useless character at this point, and this kind of makes him a little bit more important, and his ship a little bit more viable. But moving along to number 3, we have the Phantom 2. So why do we go here with the Phantom 2? The ability, by the way, is Covert Strike, which is the Phantom 2 gains stealth, advantage, and offense up for 2 turns, and reduces the cooldown of call reinforcement on the allied capital ship by 1.
Well, basically, the reason, I mean, this is, I feel, kind of under the radar in terms of usefulness. You get to call back-to-back ships on your reinforcement. So you call in the Phantom, and then the very next turn you can call in another ship as well, like back-to-back. And that especially if you pair it with somebody like Akbar, whose abilities are terrible, but they are kind of underwhelming compared to some of the other ships. There's no, tie strike. There's no insta-death like you have on the Chimera. So Akbar is just kind of, you use him for his leader ability, which is, you get the protection and the crit damage from calling an assist and stuff. So this is a good way to use, good ship to use under Akbar. Just call them back-to-back ships, get the Phantom in there, kind of set it up, and then you bring in a ship like Poe, Biston, even like a Cassian, even just it really opens up your reserves, your bank of ships and what you can do, and it allows for a much, like, you can, I guess, situational. You can pick one of your ships. If you need a dispel, you bring in Cassian. If you want damage, you bring in Biston, so on and so forth. Especially with Biston, because now if you max him out, as soon as he enters, he calls a ship to assist. And so it's it's a nice little combo. The Rebel ships are much better overall as a faction than they were before. And I think a lot of people will see that when we start getting into TWs and stuff like that.
This may be a ship that you want to throw in as your first reinforcement because of that reduced cooldown on the ship call-in. So I mean, you may want to use this ship first and then call in your heavy hitter, which could possibly be one of the next two ships that we discuss here in the top 5. But yeah, I mean, definitely a great ability. Obviously, reducing the cooldown of reinforcements is an awesome reinforcement ability. But let's not forget about the fact that it gains stealth as well, which is great for this ship because this ship is rather squishy. And offense up for 2 turns, which is also very good for this ship because this ship hits like a toothpick being flicked against your chest. And it's like with the ability to now get an increased amount of offense, obviously be stealthed, and reduce the allied ship's cooldowns for reinforcement. That definitely puts this ship's reinforcement ability in the top 5 for sure. I agree. But moving along to number 2, we have none other than the Slave One itself. So the Slave One already has been a great ship for a long time. Obviously now, as you can see from a lot of the other videos that are out there about ships, the Slave One is also now still one of the more viable ships in Ships 2.0. But its reinforcement ability is also fantastic. And that's that the... I'm sorry. I didn't have it prepared. I'm not perfect. But it's that the Slave One gains taunt, retribution, and protection up 10% for 2 turns, and critical hit immunity for 3 turns. Then inflict ability block on target enemy for 1 turn, which can't be evaded or resisted. So, I mean, first of all, it's a mouthful. There's a lot of things to think about there, but gaining taunt and retribution with protection up is fantastic. I mean, it's already a hard hitting ship. Gaining the taunt coming in, it can help protect one of your other ships that may be low on health, and gaining critical hit immunity. It's not going to take as much damage, and that's for 3 turns. So even after it loses taunt, it's still going to have critical hit immunity, and it'll inflict ability block on the target ship that you have when you're coming in. So if, let's say, for example, that a ship's mega heavy attack is coming up at some point, like maybe a Poe or whatever is on the board, you can put ability block on that ship, rendering it ineffective. So I think this is definitely a great reinforcement ability. Why do you think it's here at number 2, Maurice?
Well, the only reason this one is better than Clone Sergeant is because he does get that retribution, and on his basic attack, he can inflict a target lock. So, like, every time you hit him, he's countering and has a chance to inflict a target lock, which is huge. It's very, very big. And again, this is another one of those abilities that says inflict ability block on target enemy. Like, when you read these, you have to assume it's going to be a taunting tank. Like, it's some taunting ship is who you're going to ability block. And for the most part, I guess, unless it's a Boba Fett, then that's pretty awesome if the other one. But Biggs, you might, granted, by the time you probably get Boba Fett in, Biggs has probably already released his assist, his offense down move, where if, you hit the target locked enemy, it calls it assist. He's probably already used that. So, really, ability blocking Biggs really isn't going to do much for you. So that's kind of But the rest of his kit's awesome, especially the crit hit immunity, because he is relatively squishy. You get protection up and the retribution. So it's a ship most of us probably already have, and our Boba Fetts are probably relatively well geared because he's been a very good character for a long, long time. And so it's good to see his ship become a little better. This is one of the ships that got a nice little facelift. And it's also, CG told us that all along. And Boba Fett was kind of the flagship, when they were kind of showing off some of the new stuff, like gave you guys the beta footage and stuff like that. Like Boba Fett's ship was kind of the ones that was showcased, and it didn't change much from those previews. So,
yep. And at number 1, ship reinforcement in the game. This actually was kind of surprising to me when Maurice brought it up, but it makes a lot of sense. It's the Umbaran Starfighter. And let's laugh at this ship too, because I only have a Gear 9 5s. Okay, but what that is advanced defensive systems. That's removed 25% turn meter from all enemies, and which can't be evaded, and grant all allies defense up for 2 turns. Then inflict target lock on all enemies with 0% turn meter, which can't be evaded or resisted. So, why do you think this is the best reinforcement ability in the game?
Well, it's tanky. He's not going to, unless you're running a mace, he's probably not going to tank for you, like taunt for you, but he can take a punishment. And there's a lot of stealth mechanics you can pair him with. But he comes in, removes the turn meter. And then if the ships get reduced to 0, as it says, it inflicts target lock. But in Fives' kits, you can just bomb the whole team if the whole team's target locked. So, maybe use a couple setup ships, target lock the whole team, bring him in. He'll put target lock on enemies that get the 0% turn meter. Then he can just bomb the whole team with his special move. It's a pretty great mechanic. And that defense up, I haven't really encountered it yet. It'll be interesting to see how much of an impact defense up has. Maybe if you could bring in Fives right before Thrawn drops his AOE to see what type of damage, how much damage it actually reduces. I don't think you're going to, be able to withstand like a TIE assault from Tarkin, but the defense up, I'd like to see how if it affects a ship, the fleet battles more than it does like an arena battle. The defense up really doesn't have too much of an impact, in my opinion, in the like a PvP arena, just a character based battle.
It used to. It used to, just like offense down used to actually do something. Do you remember in the old days, if you got offense down by old Ben, I mean, you couldn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it was basically like you were just chipping away for 2 turns. But now it's because of the more high damage attacks. I don't think that the percentage of that offense down has been like kind of mitigated to compensate for all the increased viability of characters. So, we'll have to see. But it does. That removal of 25% turn meter from all enemies is fantastic, and I mean I think that overall that can't, since that can't be evaded, and you're granting all your allies defense up for 2 turns. I mean you're basically giving all your allies an opportunity to go again if or if they just went, or if they're at, let's say, 50% turn meter. They're gonna possibly get a chance to go now before the other team does, and you're also increasing their ability to kind of withstand damage. And if any of the enemies that get reduced, their turn meter reduced, go down to 0% turn meter, they're going to get target locked. So I think it's a great overall ability. Again, it's very early on in Ships 2.0. To be saying that this is the definitive way and the definitive best ship out there. But as far as on paper, this reinforcement ability definitely looks to be one of the better ones, if not the best. But
these are something that very. I mean, I've experimented with these ships, so there are some ships I haven't really tinkered with too much, and this could change in a month or two. We'll see. It's brand new. If you guys feel like there's one that got left out or this and that, you can always post it on the Discord, message me, message Ramon, and give your input too, because this is kind of a on paper, like general, first thought type of thing. So
I think next week we're going to be doing top 5 ships, period. So definitely check that out because we're going to be doing a little bit of research there to see over the next few days like how things are panning out. Just kind of seeing what the metas are at the top of Arena, and we'll put together a list or compile a list of the top 5 ships overall, not just abilities, but the top 5 ships overall for Fleet Arena. So that'll be next week. But the honorable mention for this week is Poe Dameron's X-Wing, and that is Dramatic Endurance, which is Poe Dameron's X-Wing gains dramatic entrance, which is for 2 turns, which can't be prevented or dispelled. Dramatic entrance is plus 25% offense and deal bonus damage equal to 10% of the target's max health. Gain 20% turn meter and regain dramatic entrance for 2 turns after defeating any enemy while this buff is active. So basically, Poe, who does an immense amount of damage already, is going to be coming into a battle with an increased amount of damage, 25%, and he's going to deal bonus damage equal to 10% of that target's max health. So if you're shooting or you're firing against a character that has a large health pool, I mean, his damage is going to be through the roof. And if you eliminate any enemy on this attack when he enters as a reinforcement, you're then going to have that dramatic entrance buff for another 2 turns. So excellent. And I mean, this could easily put him in contention to wipe the slate clean at the end of an encounter. So he's already probably one of the highest damage dealers in ships. So this just makes it, I think puts him over the top. So again, it's kind of early to see, how effective this is going to be. But as I look at this on paper, I think to myself, wow, that's an awesome ability.
Well, I mean, this ability, that's if you guys are relying on TIE fighter pilots, yikes. I mean, he doesn't stand a chance because this attack can't be like his big bomb. It can't be evaded. So it's he's going, especially if you can come in and you have a tank or two protecting you, you can come in, use his offense up, give himself foresight, and then you combined with dramatic entrance. I mean, you're talking you could probably one shot the majority of the ships if they don't have protection, because he does massive amounts of damage to ships that don't have protection. And TIE fighter pilot doesn't have any. His ship's toast, but some of these other ships as well. Like if you come in and Biggs has lost his protection, you might be able to one shot Biggs down if you got offense up. And this is a lot of damage. Like this ship hits hard and it's very, very fast. So you can bring him in off the reserves and get a lot of damage quickly with him. Especially you get the 20% turn meter boost now if you do kill an enemy. So that's going to make him go even faster. So this is a ship probably the majority of us have because, the Finn, everyone had Finn. Back in the day, it was one of the best Zetas and still kind of is, but he was everyone's, top 3 or 4 Zeta was Finn, and Poe is his counterpart. So it's, work it up.
Agreed. But that's the top 5 ship reinforcement abilities in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, courtesy of the Alliance and good old Maurice. And we'll be back next week with top 5 ships for Ships 2.0. So definitely stay tuned for that.
Yes, Master.